Hello, lovelies. I think we are live. Okie dokie. We are going to be working on Whip Chat today. It is a series that I have been working on, trying to work through. I started back before NaNoWriMo when I did the 4-part series on non-writing creative support. And then at the end of last month, I did the inspiration tag, hashtag inspiration with a few questions. And now we are going to be doing world building. Yay, world building. So let me go ahead and get this up. And question is, we all start in different places with world building. So question number 1, of course, is where do you start when you're world building? Do you start with a word, a place, a scene, a setting? Oh, hello, Heather. How are you doing? That one point of inspiration is very, very important. And you've all seen my, or I hope you have, if you haven't, go back and see my Writing the Tree video, which is how I learned to write novels way, way back in like 1993. Yes, I know, when most of your parents were still children. Hello, Jennifer. So I do this thing called Writing the Tree. And it starts off with a scene or series of scenes. And it's like taking a shotgun and you just word vomit as many scenes as you can. And that's where I start. And then the scenes eventually build into character profiles. And then I start world building immensely because honestly, that is the place where I love. World building is the thing I love most. It's just, I have to make myself stop to world build. And too much world building, yes. Hi, my name is Maggie, and I overwrite my worlds. But that's the very first thing. When you start world building, is where do you start? Are you building around a character? Are you building around a place? Are you building around a concept? The first initial, where do you build? And I think world building is so important because there's so many authors who the first thing they meet in a whip is they meet that new character. And so they're so excited to write this new character and they get all of this written for the new character, but they end up with what's called white room syndrome. And white room syndrome is where you see nothing of the character's environment beyond the people she's interacting with. So part of this beginner series of where do you start with world building? We're going to be trying to get past white room syndrome. So, somebody, hi, say hello, Moon Pie. Go away, Moon Pie. Okay, now we're going to go to question number 2. Question number 2 is, for world building, is how far do you go when world building? Do you make maps? Do you create customs, religions? Do you add local color? What's the weather like in your world? And honestly, I go all the way. I mean, I have huge world building documents. It's like I can't help myself. I don't know what to do about it. But it all comes back to how much of a world do you want to tell in, but you still have to tell the story without distracting people. You don't want to end up like Tolkien, where you have this immense world, but the story could be told in 150 pages. So, um, one thing that when you start world building, you really need to think about is how far are you going to go? Now, I take real world things and historical archetypes like political systems and religions and stuff, and I will change them to be something into my world because it's really easy to start world building if you start with a real world base. And that is something that I will tell people. If you're starting with a real world base, you're new to world building, write yourself a tourist guide. We've all been to the hotels and seen those little flimsy brochures that you get, when you go someplace, it's all the local attractions and hikes. Well, do that. Do that for your world when you first start world building. Make yourself a tourist guide. And then if you want to blow up and write your own Wikipedia, then you can do that. And if just a little bit, a brochure is fine for you, then go ahead and start writing. You can always add things to your world build later. There is nowhere in writing that it says you have to have your whole world built before you ever write in it, because you're exploring this world with them. So, explore with them. Have fun. Question number 3 for world building. What do you do and what resources do you use? Google is great. Wikipedia is great. Google Earth Maps is a great place to start building a real world. Encarta is a really good website that allows you to build your own maps. World Anvil is an excellent resource for world building, because as you start building in World Anvil, there are drop menus with other questions and other things to help you continue building your world on further. But with world building, it all comes down to how far is far enough. Are you going to jump down the rabbit hole? Hi, my name is Alice. Or do you have a point where you're like, this is enough, I'd visit there? Or depending on how vicious your world is, or I'd pass there as a tourist. World building is it's a never-ending process. The world's like the novels that you're writing, the characters that you are creating, the world that they live in is you. So don't be intimidated. Sometimes you'll see people like me who have these huge world builds, but you don't need to do that. You can get away with 1,000 words in your world build. It's how you write the story. The world building is important, but it is also a secondary thing to your plot and your characters. Oh, my coffee cup today. First the coffee, but actually it's first the world building. So just in the comments, let me know, how deep is your rabbit hole? And now we're on to, wait, did I skip question 4? Did I skip question? Question 4. What do you hate most about world building? Sometimes it's as easy as, if you're writing like a real world thing, it's really easy to pick it up, and just have a thing and to tweak the things that you don't like. Sometimes not so much. There are a lot of people who they hate everything about world building. And I can understand it. It's very, very daunting. And they're like, why do I need to know this? Why do I need to know where that road goes? Why do I need to know where this building is? There is no point in knowing what religion they believe in. Well, yeah, there kind of is. If you aren't focusing on, like if you're like, oh yeah, they live down this road and around this corner, And then 1,000 pages later, they go down this road around this corner and they end up at a totally different place. Your readers are going to catch that. And that's something beta readers can catch. But if you're mapping as you're creating your world, that will help. But another thing people hate is, why do I need, I'm trying to think of how to say this without being offensive, but there's no way to say it without being offensive. But why do I need to respect diversity? Why can't I just use this thing? It's called cultural appropriation. And that is a very thin gray line to tread on when you are world building. You can build your world. You can base your world built on other cultures, but you need to be careful how you present them. And for me, for the answer, what do I hate about world building? My answer is stopping world building. Part one is stopping world building is the thing I hate most. And part two is when I find a giant plot hole that my world build created. We'll talk about that in a minute. Question number 5. What do you love most about world building? All of it. I love all of it. I love world building like I love my coffee. World building is amazing. I love exploring the world. I love creating the world. I love going everywhere. Good point, Justin. Can I share? Let's see if I can show that. Yes, I can. Remember, show, don't tell in world building. If the door works different in your world, don't describe it. Just write if the door blinked. The door blinked. Yes, that's true. There are so many amazing things you can do with world building. Last week we did Barrett Laurie's Winter Writers Retreat, and I was on a stream with Nia and Charlie, and we were talking about world building because we are all world build overwriters. And you could spend days talking about just creating the technology, creating, like, if you're doing fantasy or sci-fi, the animals alone can take you days to create. And it is so much fun. The environments, you can write worlds. I mean, our atmosphere looks blue because of the stuff in it, but really it's translucent. And if you're on another world and you have orange skies, then yes, you can have orange skies because there might be some kind of dust in your atmosphere that creates a light refraction. If you have magic in your world, what kind of magic? How does it work? What does it do? What is your technology? Are your people fishermen? Do they eat squids instead of fish? There are so many things you can do with world building, so many things that you can build into it. And it's just, there's so much to love about it. Okay, I need to calm down. I know it's a cliche thing to say, but this is my truth. I love traveling, exploring new places. And when I was a child, my grandmother, every year she sent me a subscription to National Geographic from like the time I was 7 years old until she passed away when I was 23. I got a year's worth of National Geographics every year. That was my gift. And exploring the world through that, exploring the world through books, that's what world building can do. That's what world building does for your reader. And so the last thing we're going to touch on just real quick, and we will be going back to this in the rest of the video series, but it is, jump to number 6. So you're riding along in your amazing new world, and there's an earthquake. How do you deal with a world building caused plot holes? I'm going to tell you a secret. You don't have to stop world building when you start writing. If you find a plot hole, pause. do some world building for a few days, come back. And you might have to go back and change some things. There's nothing wrong with rewriting. Do not let a world building plot hole just blow up in your face and give you writer's block and become this dam between you and the river of creativity. You have resources, you have other writers. So if you want to get on a stream, there are so many AuthorTube creative writing streams that we do in our community. Ask other writers. If you can't find the answer in Google or Wikipedia or through like watching anime or watching movies or going back and reading the book that inspired you to start writing whatever you're writing right now, there are people who can be your resources. We will help you. Just reach out to us, because if you run into a world building plot hole, like you're using a soft magic system or you're using a hard magic system and one of your characters does something and suddenly you realize your entire magic system has shifted to a soft magic system. It doesn't seem like you're like, oh no, an author would never do that. Let me give you an example. Probably the most famous example of a hard to soft magic system mid-series, Harry Potter. The first book, you learn all the rules. By the third book, the rules no longer apply. And it just gets worse from there. So a world build plot hole is not that big of a deal. You can fix it. You can go back and change things backwards, or you can change things forward. Discovery writers, because of the way they write, pantser writers, discovery writers, because of the way they write, they often fall into these holes. And you just dig yourself out of it by finding an explanation that either A, fills that hole for you, or you basically do the Q in the continuum answer to fixing something in the universe, and you just change the universe. And sometimes it's really hard, and sometimes it's not. But when you get a world build plot hole, like I said, not let it become a dam between you and your creative river. That's pretty much all that I have to talk about right now. I'm putting this up so that we can have the start of the world building. I will have the rest of these videos for hashtag Whip Chat World Building coming every week. If I can figure out how to get the timers to work, we might even do some sprints next time. The next time we're going to be working on characters. How do you build your characters? How do you build the culture that you're in? Because, who are you? Who? Don't want to get a copyright strike. Can't go any further, but you know what I'm talking about. So I'll see you next time on hashtag Whip Chat, and be blessed, stay warm, and have a very lovely day.